I try to design a different project every year. One aspect of what makes curriculum authentic is that it is original. The children have the feeling that they're exploring something for the first time. I want them to feel like adventurers, like pioneers. I want the project to emerge naturally as we come together to observe and reflect and share our experiences. Once the project takes shape, then my challenge as a teacher is to help my students develop skills, knowledge, and understanding. They do this in the course of pursuing something that's meaningful and relevant to them. Whatever project we choose must give reason and opportunities to develop skills in reading, writing, math, science, social studies, technology, the arts. And it must also cover content in areas that are required by my district. Now, this is the story of how one class makes this journey. It's clear that they're excited and involved in what they do, but watch for the skills and the knowledge and the understanding they develop as they go. I planted the seed for our project by asking the class a question. In the lives that you've lived, 9 years, 10 years, what do you think has been the most important thing, the most important change that's happened in your town since you were born?
A lot of the kids said they had little brothers and sisters, and some other kids said they had moved. But one kid stood up and said the bike path was built.
So I asked them, well, you know, how do you think this bike path came to be? Does anybody remember what it was like before it was a bike path? And a few kids had actually were abutters of the path, and they remember when it was just dirt. I said, you know, what would you want to find out about this bike path? What kind of questions do you have about it? And it was quite open, and they began to ask questions, and within a period of a half hour or so, they'd filled the board with different questions about the bike path. And then we looked at those questions and put them into different categories, and we saw a number of them had to do with the usage and the different kinds of use on the bike path. And some had to do with safety, some had to do with the effect on the environment, some had to do with the whole planning process, how this thing comes to be. Some had to do with construction and how do you actually build the bike path. Some had to do with its effect in the town, of business, of people who live near the bike path. And some were just about the bicycle itself. So we outlined 10 major categories of questions, and then the children signed up for different groups that they would be interested to pursue. So we had 2 or 3 in each group, and they began to go and try to do some research, first raising more questions about their particular category, and then trying to identify where they might find the sources for their answers.
It was our group's responsibility to study the history of the land. We interviewed Miss Frick, Mr. Fortman, and Mr. Van Hook. We also read some old papers and documents, and we found some very interesting facts. We interviewed people who oversee the bike path and are familiar with its history.
Local history is a big part of our 4th grade study. So that led us in through the bike path, kind of just tracing the history of the land back over before it was a bike path. It was turned out to be a railroad, so we had a lot of interesting study of the railroad and what did the railroad do and how it transported peat from the field in the Great Meadows, or transported ice to the city. And this led, why did you have to transport ice? And the children realized it was a time before we had refrigeration. And leading back before it was a bike path, there was a canal. And how the canal worked, and eventually leading us back into what life was like for the people who lived in colonial times. So it became an avenue to get back into history.
We were interested in the planning process. 4 different towns in the State Railroad Company had to work together to make it happen.
It took, I mean, the most fascinating thing is it took 15 years to plan the bike path and then 2 years to build it. So that's quite a lesson for the children, and to understand what it is that took all that planning time.
It's kind of interesting to know all the background stuff because, you know, everybody thinks of it as just a bike path where everybody rides on it, but, you know, They don't really know much about how it really happened, what took place to actually get it there.
Well, I love to take things that are really right before us, things that we encounter every day, sometimes the most common elements that in a way we've almost lost our ability to really see and observe because it happens so often.
I was invited to come to the class and tell them about some of the early stages when we wrote the proposal and tried to find the funding and all those things, and I found the kids extremely enthusiastic and very engaged.
Now that the plans are complete, you need to find someone to build the bike path.
We were interested in the construction of the bike path, and we also interviewed Francis Fields, the town engineer, and we also read all books about construction of the road.
After the bikeway was built, see that dash line that I have up there? Basically what was put in place of it was 12 inches of gravel. The gravel allows any water that may leak down through any cracks to drain out. And the reason why we want the water to drain out of gravel,
Because when it freezes,
that is correct. Water expands when it freezes.
Well, I'm just writing a letter about a thing that for construction. I'm writing to a subcontractor that works kind of on construction, and I'm just like asking him to write to me. I'm trying to find out like what his role is, how he helped build a bike path, and like why he joined in and stuff.
So our construction group was curious about how the bike path was actually built. So they made contact with the town engineer who told us who won the contract to actually build the bike path, and they got in touch with the construction company. And so there they found out all about the history of pavement and how what kind of people are needed and what kinds of machinery is needed to actually build the roads.
After the construction was done, the town engineer and others came in and shared what they knew about the costs of the bike path. We got estimates from the town hall about how much it would cost.
Things like demolition of superstructure and maintenance had to be considered. We wanted to know how much everything cost and who paid for it.
The state originally set aside $1.5 million for the construction. When the bids were open, the cost, the low bid was $2 million. But during the construction of the bikeway, it became apparent that the design was not in detail enough, and many drainage problems occurred.
Once the costs were paid for, many people started to use the bike path. We're interested in the users, how they use the bike path, why, and when.
Here comes a bunch, yeah.
3 walkers to Arlington.
Another
3 bikes.
Yep, 3 bikes going towards Bedford and Arlington. Arlington? No. We're marking down the bikers, joggers, walkers, rollerbladers, baby carriages, and any other thing that comes by. We're going to mark them down in the time period. We'll mark them either if they're going to Arlington, or if they're going to Arlington, or if they're going to Bedford.
We're going to take this information and put it onto other charts and put it in a book for our data. It's quite helpful and fun.
We spent several days tallying traffic on the bike path. We did some on weekdays and some on weekends. And this generated a lot of data for the rest of the class to explore.
Well, this is a graph about how many bikers and rollerbladers there were. See there it says rollerbladers or roller skate, and it's up to, there's all the numbers. We compare the streets and the times and the joggers and the bikes to the walkers and the joggers and the baby carriages to the walkers. We just compare.
Our challenge was not only to record and organize the data, but to make sense of it, to find the story that the numbers told.
When we were working on the users chapter, we had done counts on the bike path to figure out how many bicyclists were using the bike path and what way they were going, and what the population was on each street. And the numbers are the numbers of the bikers at different times on the different streets. Like you can see on Fletcher Street at 6:15, there were 36 bikers. And what Mr. Levy did was he sort of color-coded these because you can see how the bikers moved. So from 4:45 to, from Maple Street to Fletcher Street, about 10 people got on, and then in another 15 minutes, when the Fletcher Street people got to Bedford, there's only 6, because that's the purple one. So what we sort of figured out was, here's a center here, and it looks like a lot of people are getting off in the center. And we sort of put them on charts so we could sort of, figure out patterns and different things like that.
And then we compared it to Kathy Buckley Lewis's results, and we found out that they were so much higher than they were.
Now that there are so many people using the bike path, safety is an issue. We were interested in the safety of the bike path.
We interviewed Mr. Manhook of the Friends of the Bike Path Committee, Officers Hogan Callahan. We went to the police station and got a report on all the incidents that have happened on the bike path, and we read lots and lots of articles. We're both researching in the Lexington Minuteman about the bike path. We're looking specifically for things that have to do with safety on the bike path, and like about people whom we may want to contact.
Well, there was like so many accidents that the town had to add new signs to the bikeway.
Like there will be a lot more safety with more signs. Like from what we've heard, the most accidents have happened at intersections, and now they put signs at the intersections so that people would know that there's an intersection coming and they'd slow down. Once everything was safe, the town had to deal with complaints galore from the abutters.
We were interested in the abutters. We sent out letters and got letters and phone calls from them.
One of the most interesting aspects of our study was the effect of the bike path on the abutters. First, we had to find out who they were. This meant a journey to the town hall, and the group of students that was responsible for researching the abutters went with a tutor and a parent to look at the town maps and to try to identify who lived adjacent to the bike path.
Yeah, these are the property maps. These are a small set that we have here in the office. Why did they put the bike path where they put it?
The railroad, we looked for the railroad.
Okay, exactly. So that's it. You've got it. And you can follow the B&M Railroad.
Right up here.
All the way from Bedford to what's at this end? Arlington. Yep.
Number 39, you have to turn to the page that says 39, right? Is that right?
Yep. These numbers, this is each parcel in town. So this Tower Park right here would be identified as 3983.
Yeah, but what are these little numbers?
Oh, that's the footage from here to here. And that would be some of the way that you would compute how much the taxes are
Taxes.
on that lot, on that.
I wouldn't want to figure
Everybody's
taxes.
done by
so-
square foot.
Once we found the names and addresses of the abutters, we wrote to them to find out their thoughts about living next to the bike path. Our work with the abutters provided many opportunities to develop skills in language arts.
What our letter says is, Dear abutters, our names are Renetta and Alana. Our class is doing research on the bike path. We wanted to ask you a few questions. How did it affect you? If you moved next to the bike path, why? We were wondering if you could call us, or we will invite you to our class for the answers. Sincerely, Renetta Holloway and Alana Kessler.
We had one visitor, a member of the Board of Selectmen, who said that she had found notes in her husband's file from a public hearing back in 1985 of people who came together to speak either for or against the bike path. I couldn't wait to give these notes to my class. We could write to those people and find out if their opinions had changed any since the bike path was built. Her husband, Jack Edison, why, he was on the Board of Selectmen. He worked very hard to help make the bike path a reality. Mrs. Edison goes into Mr. Edison's file and pulls out this one folder. Now, the folder was named Bike Path, and in that folder, she had notes that Mr. Edison had written down after one of the meetings of the Board of Selectmen. Now listen to these notes, yes. And on these notes, he had listed many names of people who got up and raised their hand to speak at this meeting, either for the bike path or against the bike path. Let me give you an example. He's a cyclist and he's an abutter, but he's a little concerned about kids throwing rocks at his house. All right, now this, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you, the date of these notes are October the 28th, 1985. All right. Now, were you born? If you were to get, and I'm going to hand out all of these notes to you all. Anybody have an idea what you'd write, Serena? What would you write to Mr. Hay?
Like, ask him if it's changed, like if they do throw rocks at his house, and if they don't, like, does he like the bike path now? Is he concerned anymore?
Okay, good idea. All right, here's another one. This is from a gentleman, George S. Gray from Lexington, Toyota, and he has a question about how the bike path is going to be maintained. He's concerned about security and that maybe kids are going to come along on the bike path and do harm to the cars that are all parked right out there by Lexington Toyota. Somebody will get that one, and you'll have to write Mr. Gray. Here they are. People against the bike path. Richard Graham. Norman and Elizabeth Hewlins. Eleanor, oh, she was vociferously against it.
I'll get her.
Restaurant fee.
Roland Greeley.
Will you give us like the letters they said?
Yes.
Julia, why don't you go off?
Hey, that one, this is just a simple meeting, okay?
Dear Mr. Leonard, we are Mr. Levy's 4th grade class at Bowman School. Our class is studying the bike path. We really want to know if you have changed your mind about the path. We are writing to a lot of the abutters who were concerned about bike path problems. In 1985, you were concerned about motorcycles on the path. You were also concerned about the hidden costs for the path. We want to know if you are still thinking about the motorcycles. Have you heard about hidden costs? If you are interested, please write us back. Thank you very much for your time. Sincerely, Jessica.
Excellent.
So this is an excellent model.
He thought the money should be, they should put the money into keeping the schools open because in 1985 they closed Hastings School in Lexington and they had to redistrict and stuff. She thought they should put the money into keeping that school open. And she thought the crossings were very dangerous.
All right, so he will have no idea what he wrote 9 years ago in a letter. So you've got to remind him what his thoughts were. So you understand why you're concerned, or why you were concerned, because he was concerned then. You don't know if he still is, right? See if you can find out how to spell studied. See if you can find if you can spell screen. See if you can find how to spell bikers.
I'm writing to Elizabeth Newlands she made a comment about the bike path in 1985 about the money and the planning of the bike path. She thought it was gonna cost too much money. I'm asking if her feelings changed or if she likes the bike path or if it was too much money or stuff like that.
I wrote a letter to Mary Sherney. She was concerned about the width of the bike path. I have no idea why, but I wrote to her asking her about is the size all right with her and if there's any other problems about the bike path.
Incorrect, you thought it was too much money. I like the way you write these, because you're very thoughtful. And if I am correct, you don't make assumptions. If I am correct, I thought it was too much money. Was the bike path too much money? If it was it worth it? That's great. So it's been a lot of good writing, a lot of good analyzing of these comments or of letters that we got to identify just what was this person's particular concern or interest. So there was analyzing, deciding what questions to ask. These were all important work. So there was an article published about the project in the Boston Globe, and this was read by people in Burlington and in Concord, and each of them sent a class a letter.
Today we got this letter from the town of Concord, and it said, Dear Mr. Levy, congratulations on your class's bike path study. Your project, as described in the February 6th Globe article, will certainly educate your students in a variety of subjects. Concord is also interested in the Minuteman bike path. A citizen task force...
This was very exciting when we got a letter from the town of Concord, and they said that we here in Concord are trying to get a bike path started. And we read that you're doing this research, and especially the study of the abutters and how the abutters feel about it, because there's a lot of opposition in our town. And we wonder if you could share some of your research with us. What have you found out about the abutters and how their ideas may have changed from before the bike path was built, and have their fears and concerns been realized or abated now that it has been constructed?
When people from the towns of Burlington and Concord wrote us letters asking for the results of our research, we realized that we were finding things out that nobody knew before.
So this made the students feel like the work that they were doing really counted. This was real. It wasn't just an exercise being done in a classroom, but this had consequences even beyond our town. So it provided a great motivation and added a certain element of reality and excitement to the research they were doing. So now we have two different towns, one in Concord and one in Burlington. Both of them have read about your study that you're doing on the bike path here in Lexington and are asking that they would get some of the research that you've done that they think might be able to help them in their path. Now, what obstacle do you think they're facing?
The abutters.
The abutters, tell me more. What's the problem with the abutters?
They're afraid that there's going to be too much noise and there's going to be too much crime and stuff.
Okay, good. Anything else? While you get back there, get Julia.
And because they don't want people running through their backyard, and they just want their privacy. They don't like people going back and forth and having to hear everything all day long, stuff like that.
Excellent, right. Some people really wanted their privacy. That was a great intrusion. Let's see what Lily says.
But what about the railroad? They used to have a railroad behind that house. Why would a bike path be a problem if they had a railroad?
Because you don't just
Okay, if you have a response to that, what do you think?
go on grass.
Ilana?
What they said was they came back and forth once every day.
Yeah. I think that's the big thing.
Morning.
They could deal with the railroad just one time it went in the morning, remember? And just one time in the evening. So they probably would be rather deal with that, some of them, than to have all day long traffic and noise going back and forth. People working on the abutters, tell us, can you give us just a little report? What have you found out so far?
Most of the people like had about one problem with it, or a few, like there were motorbikes coming through, or people came through and like picked a flower or something, but nothing really that big. Just little problems with it. And so most of them liked it. And they seemed to think that everyone else thought the same thing that they did.
Those people who didn't like it did not have an open mind to it before the bike path. If they had had an open mind to it and say, maybe I'll like this, they may have liked it a lot more than just saying, I don't like it, when it's not even there.
That's important. I mean, have you all had experiences where you've had your mind made up, and I mean, nothing was going to change it? I mean,
Especially in food.
Julia, have you had that happen?
Well, yesterday it happened. I said that I definitely hate skiing when I never even went skiing before.
Yes.
And then my dad made me go skiing on the bike path, and I actually liked it.
Aha! Good for you. Okay. So maybe if we could get some of the, maybe we ought to have like a party for all the abutters and get them onto the bike path if they've never been on it.
Yeah.
And just like Julia, they'll find out, hey, we really like this.
We soon realized that the bike path was bringing a lot of people to it. The businesses were glad. We were wondering if the bike path has affected the business in any way.
Exploring the effect of the bike path on business offered an opportunity to develop skills in research, in math, and writing, and social studies. Children wrote to businesses that abutted the bike path. They called them up on the telephone. They interviewed them in person. We expected to find that business had increased at places like the ice cream store and the coffee store. But the Gap's reported 30% increase in sales was a bit of a surprise. The children also contacted the realtors in town to see if living on the bike path had increased or decreased their property values.
Most of them say they like the bike path and it's very pretty, but I think one of them didn't like the bike path.
Well, on hot days, there's lots of people who come in here with bike helmets, or there's a bunch of people on rollerblades even who come in, whole families ordering lots of ice cream, so it's really helped Steve's business.
The bike path may affect the businesses and the butters, but it also affects the environment. Joe and I were interested in how the bike path affected nature, trees, and landscaping. We interviewed John Fry and Angela Frick. We also looked information up in books. We found that beavers are on the bike path, as well as red foxes, pheasants. We found that they're going to replace the whole bridge with. The state wants to replace it with like a tunnel made out of concrete blocks. And there's been like 50 letters written to the state that they don't want that. They want something that looks more like the existing bridge that is old, very old now.
Now that the environment is being considered, we move on to the bike itself. We were interested in the bike's origins and how it worked.
And it was so interesting to trace over the ages the technology and the huge steps along the way that made it what it is today. The first time somebody thought of putting pedals on. And then why did one wheel have to be so big and the other small? Well, the pedals weren't yet connected to any chain, so when they invented the chain that could connect from the pedals to the wheel didn't have to be so big, and so it was a celebration when we realized, what the chain did.
That's the penny farthing. Why they had the big wheel was it can go farther in one turn of the wheel than it can with just a smaller wheel like that. The bike's really interesting because the first one was the second. What really started the bike a long time ago, Leonardo da Vinci of the 14 to 1500s did sketching, rough sketches of something that looked a lot like a bike. So that's what we think, but Pierre Lallement added the real pedals, so he was given a lot of credit for creating like almost the first bike. In 1973, we had in about 1973, we now have this. So it's changed a lot. In between, there's a lot of maturing.
Simple Machines was part of my 4th grade science curriculum, so the bicycle offered the perfect opportunity to see the simple machines in action.
And we were just fixing a BMX back there that's brand new that we got from somebody. And what we've been doing is going through with groups. And one group would take it apart, and one group would put it together, and another group will take it apart, and another group will put it together. So everybody's going to get a chance to know how it works and all that.
But it won't turn. Yeah, you have to try hard. I am trying hard.
Ladies, stop right now. Why can't she do that? Put it back how you had it. Put it back how you had it.
I know.
Okay, Gundy, what would help her?
I know. Yeah, but it won't fit in that way.
Oh.
It won't fit. Yes, it will. No, it won't go in for me. No, it won't go in.
Yeah, this one did.
This one. It works.
This one.
Now, how did that help?
Because you have a longer pole, but I tried it this way first and it didn't go in.
Let me tell you something about that. You're exactly right. Now, it does. What happens is if you look, like what is the shape here on the end of this?
It's a hexagon.
It's a hexagon.
And that's not a
Now,
hexagon.
Yeah, well, isn't it?
Oh, it is, but it's a little bent.
Okay, well, it could be that. But it could be sometimes you just have to slightly adjust this to where it fits. They'll fit in if you slightly adjust. Now, wait, before you go any further, I want you to try to work together as a team. I don't want one person to go take this off and this one, because then the others of you don't know what the other person did. Take your time, you got plenty of time. Do one thing, but kind of do it together so that you see how each part works.
Are we going to do this till the end of the day?
No, you do it until you're done. You can come in at recess, sure. All right, now, I want you to figure out how the brakes work. That's very important. I want you to figure out how the seat is adjusted, how the handlebars get adjusted. All right. The one thing...
I think this is going to be really fun.
You want to ask him what he did?
Gundy, you have to help me.
I don't pretend that the project covers every aspect of my curriculum. So I still have math class, and I still have reading time, and I still have other science projects that go on. But there are particular units that I do need to cover that are wonderfully fulfilled in the bike project. We have to study simple machines, so there's no better way than to really observe them at work, and the bicycle provided a perfect opportunity. So we saw the levers in the brake, and we saw the gears, and we saw the wheel and the axle. You know that this goes into where the handlebars are going to be attached to, and you know you want this to be sturdy, you don't want this to be able to turn around. Now the question is, when I'm sticking a tube inside another tube, I want it to be tight, but there's no way to turn this around and tighten it. So they needed to design a way that it's going to get tight. It kind of fits neatly right on there, so it's just one straight cylinder, but watch what happens as I continue tightening.
It's wobbling and it's going outwards.
You see, Serena, what do you see?
The thing
inside is going out, so it's getting bigger. But
Oh,
the
it's just
thing
like the-
isn't getting big. It's just moving outwards.
Exactly, it's just moving
It's just like
outwards.
it's
Now,
just like the grinder.
Danny, tell me
It
what?
does. It has that thing around it, so it just goes up there, and that just screws, and so then it slowly gets tighter.
Like what did you say?
Like the
It
grinder.
works in the same principle as the grinder?
Yeah.
Interesting. So the screw here is pulling up this piece. And what do we want to call this piece?
The inner.
It's not made of rubber, it's really metal.
The inner.
What did you say? It truly, my friends, is a wedge. And can you see when this is in there, that wedge is coming up, pushing like you showed us against the side. And the principle that's holding this tight, it's not the screw, but what is it?
The wedge.
This, my dearest friends, is a use of a wedge in a bicycle. Once we had the idea of repairing bikes and giving them to children that didn't have any bikes, the question was, who would those children be? And we didn't know exactly where to find them. We thought if we couldn't find any direct connection to people, we could give them to an orphanage, but we thought it'd be better if we could really meet some children that we could give them to. So we developed a relationship with a class in Lawrence. And we had been studying wool, and we found out that in Lawrence, wool used to be the major product. It was the wool-producing capital of the world back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. So we wrote to a class in Lawrence, and we asked them if they could teach us something about their city and about the production of wool. And their teacher wrote our class because they were studying the American Revolution, and here we are in Lexington. So their class asked if we could teach them something about Lexington. And so I liked the idea that it was an exchange. This wasn't going to be something of the rich children just giving something to the poor children, but there was going to be really something we each had to give to each other. So we developed pen pals in Lawrence, and the children began writing back and forth, and we tried to tell them as much as we could about our city, and we illustrated different parts of the city, and they did the same. And then on one exciting day we went to visit them, and they toured the river that gave power to the mills, and they showed us the mills and showed us a slideshow of the history of Lawrence. And we had a wonderful meeting of these people that we'd been corresponding with, and we noted that their city was quite different than ours. Lawrence is one of the 20 poorest cities in the United States, and it was clear that these children didn't have nearly as many material goods as our children did, and someone had the idea we could give our bikes to the children in Lawrence if they didn't have any. So we invited the children in Lawrence then to come visit our class, and we met them on the green, and we had quite an exciting reenactment of the battle that occurred back in 1775. And after the battle, we presented them with the bikes that we had fixed. Now this was quite a moment. We had been able to fix 18 bikes, and I was very worried because they had 21 children in their class, and I didn't know what I was going to say to the poor 3 children that weren't going to get bikes, and we would promise them that they would get the best bikes as soon as we had a chance to finish fixing them. When we went out onto the playground in order to test our bikes for the final test before we would ride them to the green to meet the children from Lawrence, we found one had a terrible error, and we could not ride it, so we were down to 17, and now it was 4 children. So we got down to the green, and there we rode in our British costumes and met them who were in their colonial costumes and prepared for the battle. And their teacher came up to me and said, "Mr. Levy, I don't know how many bikes you were able to fix, but we only had 17 children that brought permission slips to get bikes." So I said, "Hallelujah, we have 17 bikes." And we lined the bikes up from the smallest to the tallest, and then we did the same with the children from Lawrence, and they peeled off, and each one of them received a bike. At first, some of the children were disappointed, especially 3 boys who were the shortest boys, who got 3 bikes that didn't have any gears and didn't have any speeds, and they were disappointed as they looked at the bikes. But after they had one chance to ride around the green, they were howling, "These are the greatest bikes. We love the small bikes."
I like the way it rides. It goes fast and smooth. You don't feel no bumps. I like it, and the brakes work good. I like it. It's fast.
It goes fast. It goes fast, real fast. It's good because maybe it got good tires and stuff. And mostly, it's good.
It was cool. Very cool. I love the bike. She been on a bike, but she never been on a bike that's too big, so I have to help her out. Because she's nervous and she keeps on shaking. So we're going to try this out. Feel free to watch. What? Come on. Wait.
Okay, leave one.
Pedal, 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 pedal.
We're having a great time here.
And that's from Pempa.
Lexington is much better than
That's from
mine.
Pempa.
Lexington is much better.
Hi. Today I came from the K school to go to the Lexington school to meet my pen pals. My pen pal's name is Cassandra. She's my best friend, and I love her so much. I love her so much because she gave me a bike. I love my bike too.
And there was another girl who was from Cambodia, and she'd never been on a bike in her life. And I tried to coax her to get onto the bike, and she would not listen. And so I've tried and tried, all using my best teacher techniques of encouragement, but I couldn't get her to try. So I went on to another situation, and then several of the children from my class went up, and the next thing I knew, they were holding the handlebars and lifting her up onto the bike, and she began to move across the green, and by the end of 15 minutes, she was riding with the best of them.
Danny thinks that like so.
Our final task was to take a tremendous amount of information that we had collected from interviews, from books, from surveys, and to put it together into a form we could share it with others. And of course, this was the production of our book. We had 10 different chapters, and children had been working in each chapter in order to gather information, but it turned out to be quite a challenge how to put this then into a form that could be shared. So 5 of the children offered to be editors, and this was a big commitment because they were going to give up all their time from now till the end of the year to really work with each of these chapters and refine the language and pull together the loose ends and find out information that was still lacking. And the editors have been working morning and afternoon, before school and after school, and in the evening to pull together the chapters of the book. So we'll make the book available to libraries, to historical societies. We'll give the book to other towns who've written to us and asked us for the results of our research. We will sell the book to anybody who's interested. We'll put copies in the local bookstores and hopefully raise back enough money to cover our costs in producing it.
On behalf of the class, I'd like to say this has been quite an extraordinary year, one we will never forget. We talked to so many different people and learned so much stuff about the path. How could we forget it? Of course, it wasn't possible without all your help. Abutters, donators, teachers, and etc. We now have the opportunity to teach kids and adults all over Massachusetts about the bike path.
This little book is just superb. I'm very pleased about this, and I think you should all be very, very proud.
Really good. I mean, I feel very professional.
Thank you very much.
I very happily came over to the school, and we spent some time teaching the kids how to change flat tires and how to adjust cables and things, brakes and things like that. And it was a great experience right from the get-go.
She told me when they were making the bicycles, fixing them up for their friends in Lawrence, we went out together to the bike path to count the bikes and do the surveys. Yes, she told me lots about the bike path. She would come home, she was very excited.
I think that this was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for Ronetta. She was interested all of a sudden in how the bicycle worked. Came home and got the book and took it in so that she could share with the other children of how bicycles work. She also helped us out because we had a problem at home with her sister's bicycle, and she was able to tell me how to unscrew it and lift the, make the seat higher. So I think she took it home, so it was something that she not only learned in class, but was able to use again.
It was very interesting that they learned so much, that they integrated so many different subjects all into one project. It was an awfully good way, I thought, for the kids to learn about the math, the science, the history, the social studies, even a lot of the literature. And Tommy, my son, who had done a lot of the work on the editing, seemed to really develop a lot of English skills, a lot of language skills. So it was just fascinating the way Mr. Levy had put together the entire year thematically through the one subject.
It seems to me our biggest goal is somehow to involve them so much in the curriculum that they're studying that their interest is natural. The world should hold excitement and joy and thrill as we explore it and find out, how it works and what it's made of. So if we can find projects that are part of the children's own life, that they have a direct interest in, and that through those projects teach the kinds of skills and knowledge that are needed in order to proceed in the goal that they want to accomplish, then I think we've created an exciting learning environment. That we should be able to take things around us that we've just been so jaded to, even the children, they just take it all for granted, and to somehow wake those up out of the tomb of the taken for grantedness and look at it with a fresh eye and find that in them is sometimes material for fantastic and extraordinary learning experiences.